Okay, welcome back to the Eat to Grow podcast. Today we have some very special guests. We have Vanessa and Marissa Silva with us. And these two ladies have been long-term clients of mine through TM and now friends. And we're so excited to have them on the podcast today. And we're going to be talking all things about our 20s. I celebrated my 28th birthday in the beginning of October. And I'm not like a huge birthday person. Like I get embarrassed to be like, it's my birthday. So like I don't like to.
When you get that old, I think it's like,
yeah.
Not, I'm sorry.
Oh my god.
When you to a certain point,
shit. Okay.
It's a different type of feeling. It's like, I'm already feeling like that. You know what I mean? It wasn't that. It was like when you hit 21, what's the point? What's the point?
It's like, not that it's depressing, but like it feels different. And like I definitely felt that this year.
Yeah.
Like, I think when you start knowing like you're getting close to your 30s, I feel like there's an immense pressure to like have it figured out. Do you guys like feel the same?
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
And I think too, for women, there's a huge pressure to like be married, have a kiddo, buy the house, like do the whole societal thing. And I know I have some friends, like my best friend Carrie, like she's doing that. She's been doing that. And she had her first kid when she was like 22. And she is on her second kid, like she's amazing, and like she's loving that life. And like for me, I'm like, is there something wrong with me that like I don't want that yet? And I'm like, obviously just finished school like a year ago, so I'm like, I feel like I just got my life back. And we got the dog, so like he's my baby. But like,
it's your baby, that counts.
It definitely counts, and it's teaching me a lot. And it definitely taught me so much. This is kind of funny, but like getting Copper taught me so much about what matters to me, because put him before me all the time. And like I'm like, okay, it doesn't matter to be at the gym like for this many hours. Like I want to be home with him as soon as I can be. And like that changed my whole outlook on like fitness and like health and nutrition, like what my priorities are. And I think that's really cool that a dog can do that.
Right.
So like I imagine a kid.
Person yeah, exactly. Like a kid would be even more, because that kid is living for is a human being.
Right.
Like it's a human being, so it's gonna grow up, and then you're gonna have a relationship with this person. And it's so weird that like you can have a child that you literally grew, and it's how crazy is that?
Isn't that bizarre? So like I feel like that changed me a ton this past year, but I think what I'm looking forward to most is like I'm kind of like in my later 20s is just like I've heard how good your 30s can be, because like you're a little bit more established, and like you've been through, hopefully most people are finished with like school, which is like so nice, and like you're kind of just like in this new phase of life. And I feel like it's exciting to be in your late 20s. And I felt like I would always be like, oh, that sucks to be in my late 20s. But like, I'm like, no, your late 20s are fucking awesome. Like, I love my late 20s.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so that's how I feel about it. But yeah, so I celebrated my 20th birthday in October. So we want to talk about like all things 20s. And like, we have a variety of ages here, which is really fun.
Right.
So, who is youngest?
I am.
Kate. Okay.
That's crazy.
I know, right? I like forget.
Isn't that crazy?
So you're 24.
I'm 24. I'm gonna be 25 in January, so
Okay.
that's basically beginning of January, so it's like a month away.
That's so great.
So my frontal lobe is about to watch. I'm about to be woke.
Literally.
I want everyone to watch out.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've lived like a good life up to this point. Like I did my whole going out phase when I turned 21. I went to the clubs. I did the bars. I still do the bars, but I don't do the bars to the extent of when I did them at 21.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like it's been pretty good. Like I'm excited to now settle down and get into that point of life where I am ready to start a family. I'm ready to get married. I'm ready to just start my career and just have a really established life.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, that's not the case with everyone. Like some people, there's so many different like walks of life that
in your 20s.
In your 20s that experience life so differently.
Yeah. Like I don't know if this resonates with you guys, but like I just said, like I have Carrie, my best friend, she's like 2 kids, the house, she's got it all going for her. And then there's like me, who's like about to go out for the 4th time this month, and like I am like in a different place. I also like don't go out all the time, this is kind of rare, but like I think like I am still in a different phase of life, and like so your friends are like all in different places in your 20s. Like some people are married with kids, some people are still going out, some people are like in grad school, like my best friend.
This is the weird like 10-year period
where it's so
every single person is in a different place in life, and that's why it's so fun to go to your high school reunion.
I'll never go. You won't.
I am the first one there, the last one to leave. I am talking to every single person.
That's because you're a social butterfly. You will talk. She'll talk to a fucking wall.
I love it so much, and I just will talk everyone's ear off. And it's so interesting to see where every single person is. Like my best friend in high school is married, and my
Who?
Sarah.
Oh.
My best friend now has a job down the street, like in Boston. Like how crazy?
Like big
is
girl
that?
job. Yeah.
Big girl
Yeah.
job, like accountant, big girl job.
She's a big girl.
And I'm here. And this is what I'm doing right now. But it's so crazy to see how everyone is so different when you're 24, let alone 25, 26, 20.
And Vanessa's 25.
25.
So her frontal lobe has officially
Yep,
developed.
2 weeks ago, watch out, it feels good,
Oh my God.
feeling good.
That's awesome.
I think something too that's interesting is like where you thought you'd be at a certain time in your life
Right?
versus where you are.
Oh my God,
And
yeah.
it's like, oh my goodness. And like also being okay with like where you are versus like where you thought you were gonna be.
Yes.
Like, if I was gonna have 3 kids at 25, I was like, young mom, I'm gonna be a mom at 20. And I'm like, okay,
Our
like,
entire generation
God.
has always thought like we want to be young parents.
Yeah.
We want to be young
Yeah.
parents. I feel like that was such a societal thing that we all just agreed upon.
Okay, not to like cut you off, but like parents wise, my mom's an older mom. She had me at like 38. She had like a couple miscarriages, so I was like miracle baby. So like good thing I made it. Good now you get this podcast. What do you think? Like, so were your parents young? Or?
So our mom had Marissa at 23.
Okay,
Yeah,
so younger.
So
I
she's
would
like
consider that young.
51, 50.
Yeah,
so,
okay,
she's,
gotcha.
so she's really young.
Yeah.
So like I always just thought that was like what people did.
Right,
You know what I'm saying?
right.
Like everyone's just gets young, so
Yeah.
whatever. And like our entire family's like that. Our entire
See.
yeah. So it's like everybody's
so
like
the pressure's on.
I was gonna say
Pressure is on. Pressure is on.
Pressure is on. Like, it's
Yeah.
hard. It's
Yeah.
hard. There's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're also the only women in our family.
Really?
On our dad's side, we're the only.
So you have all boy cousins?
All boy cousins.
I know you have a
That's
brother.
crazy.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
a brother. So
Yeah.
it's just us, just the girlies.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of pressure. More on you.
Yeah.
Morning.
And I'm like, sorry guys.
I know.
but it's
Sorry.
not happening.
I know.
It can't happen right now.
No.
I think too, like, because like John and I have been in a relationship for so long, like, everybody assumes we should be married, and like, do you not understand? We started dating when we were 14.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that counts, but like, we're still
Yeah.
even now today, like, learning each other, and we're like, honestly, how I look at marriage personally. This is not to offend anybody, but me and my views. It's a big, expensive party, and like we're very dedicated to one another, and so like I just really want to buy a house. Sorry.
Yeah.
And like I'll do my big expensive party if I decide that's important to me, like later on. And I want it to
Yeah.
be small. I don't want
Yeah.
it to be that big.
See, that's where we have different views.
And that's okay.
I want a
And that's
huge
okay.
We're the same way,
wedding.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
want a huge engagement. I wanted him to do it at my graduation at college. I wanted everyone to see it just because I just like really want everyone to see how much he loves me, I think. It's almost
Yeah.
like part of a validation.
I'm not gonna do that from right now, but
Yeah, see, I have different views about that.
We're the opposite. I'm like 95% sure I'm gonna elope, and she wants a big party.
I'm like, hell
yeah.
It's like I think like the whole point of getting his point of view is like I want us to celebrate that. Like that's really important to me to celebrate it. And I would be like you, Vanessa. I'm like, let's go to the courthouse. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
But like I think it is fun. It'll be more intimate, but it'll still be like big. If you know what I
Yeah.
mean. Like I have a wedding venue picked out. Don't get me wrong. I have a whole vision. But like I'm like I want to do the house first personally. Get a dog.
Yeah.
I want to give Copper a yard. So bad.
Yeah,
that
makes
makes
sense.
sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Also, I think it's important too for all of you guys who've been in long-term relationships. Your partner's constantly like changing and evolving and
Oh.
growing,
Mhm.
and
Oh,
so
yes.
are you on the other side. So it's like as the relationship evolves,
Yeah.
like years after years, like
Yeah.
it is something that you kind of constantly have to like
Reassess.
exactly
Right.
You need to
reassess.
reassess. I will be so transparent. John and I had a conversation like a week ago, a really hard conversation. And we're still reassessing, even
Yeah.
now. And we're going to be 14 years together. Like,
Yeah.
and like, I mean, some people aren't even married that long, or like
Yeah.
dating that long.
That's
before they get
true.
married.
Right.
And like, I just think like, what is the rush on this if we're so committed to each other that like, and it sucks because I get questions all the time, like, when are you getting married? Are you gonna have kids? We had a neighbor. Sorry, I'm really we had a neighbor. We had a neighbor at my mom recently moved. If cousins are watching, hi, she moved. And
Guess what? She's gone.
she sold the house in where I grew up, and the neighbor across the street, such a nice lady, but like comes from like a different background culture. They're from like Greece, so of course like cultures are different. And I was like 25, like still deep in school, and she was like, "Is Kelly ever gonna get married and have kids?" And my mom was like, "Whoa, like yeah." I mean, like she's a busy girl, like she's a career.
Yeah.
I think I think I'm more of a career girly right now. That's my thing, and like that's okay. Because I feel, even though I have clients that are older than me, like way older, they're like my kids. So like I feel like I have kids, and it's
You
like
have a
the best way.
responsibility, and you have.
And I'm like those are my kids right now, and I like love that. But I'm like, oh my gosh, to think about bringing another little human and like having to dedicate time to them, I just couldn't give them a good life right now. So I'm like, oh god. But like the pressure is so on at this age. It's like crazy.
I think people also want babies, not kids.
Mm.
You know, it's like, okay, the
It's an
baby
idea.
is great. Like, I love, like, I want kids, but like, also you have to understand that, like, it's an 18-year commitment. Like, you have to, you know, really
It's a life.
you have to see it through. Like, you know, it's not
You can't
just.
And I was
Exactly.
the worst. I was the
Yeah.
worst child in middle school to my mother. I still apologize to her every single day. But like, I'm like, I can't handle that right now. I'm not mature enough
Yeah.
as an adult right now to handle that. I couldn't.
I agree. I
I
agree.
couldn't do it.
Never
Not about you, but about
No,
myself.
you should. And you should agree about that. Yeah, I think it's just. I don't know.
I
It's
also think our generation is taking longer and longer to like,
yeah.
you know, get married and do all the things. Because I mean, the divorce rate is what, like, or it
It's
was
50%.
Like days we are like taking longer. I feel like therapy is now a bigger thing. People are
Yes.
actually addressing their trauma.
I
not
tell
passing it
everyone
down.
that was like, what if we just try relationship therapy or like marriage therapy and just say
Couples
we're like couples therapy,
Yeah.
And I'm like, we've been together for this long, like we know where this is end game. I'm not gonna break up with you at this point.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm
Reluctant.
reluctant.
Yeah.
And if we have problems that we're having a fight and we cannot fix this, we can't seem to come to an agreement, why wouldn't we just go to that?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't we just try to fix it? Why can't we explore all options?
So many people think it's gonna be easy, like all the time.
Yes.
And then it should be rainbows, butterflies. You're always feeling like so lusty and in love. And like there are gonna be times where you're like, I think I might not like this person.
Yeah.
And like you're gonna go through phases like that in your relationship. And like obviously if you're feeling that way, you need to talk about something. And that's where you need to like get your communication in check. But like it's hard being in a long-term relationship. So like yeah, I'm not surprised the divorce rate is 50%. It's insane.
Yeah. People have so many problems too communicating in relationships too. If like if something's bothering you, like you just like suppress it, and then it explodes.
Yes.
And it's like, oh my god, where did this come from? Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people like really struggle. I think our generation does a lot better job
Yeah.
though at like being open about that certain type of thing.
Sure.
But it's definitely it's definitely tough.
It is tough. It's so tough.
I agree with you saying that our generation is way more apt to
Way better.
talking,
way
just
better.
like being able to express our feelings and all of these
Yeah.
things. Yeah, like generally men are harder to express their feelings,
Yeah.
and that sucks. And I wish they would. And I just feel like as women together, we have to like push for that, and almost like not in a bad way, but just let them know that they can do that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't judge him for anything. So if he were to come to me and say like, hey, this is something that's making me anxious. Hey, this is something that's making me upset.
Sure.
I would take that and say, okay, let's figure out a plan to fix that. Like, just open up. You just have to open up. And I think that's really hard for men because they've never done that before the past.
It's like such a like they feel like they have to
Yes.
hold. Then it's like you're a human. You're not like you're not any different. Like yes, you're different in many ways, sure, but like you're still human. You have feelings. Like it's okay. But like yeah, I think it is crazy. It's crazy
Right?
how different it can be in your 20s. So like Vanessa, you're 25. When your frontal lobe developed, like what happened for you? I know it's only been like 2
What
weeks.
happened?
When you woke up, how did you feel?
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like
What's
it's like
changed?
I feel like it's a progression though. Like I
Yeah.
know like over this past year of like 2024,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my god, like every day like I'm thinking differently than I ever have before, and it's like this is insane because
Yeah.
I feel like before like there was like very one way of thinking. It was like very I'm like a very stubborn person, so like, it was very one way of thinking. But now I feel like I'm much more open to a lot of things,
Sure.
and just being able to be like almost like what you were saying, like vulnerable.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I'm gonna drop my trauma on.
You love my trauma.
I'm gonna drop my trauma on podcast.
Show them.
But, like I'm like very closed off, like very stubborn. So like being able to be vulnerable, especially with my boyfriend specifically, like that's definitely hard for me. So yeah,
Vanessa's hyper.
there's my trauma. There's my trauma.
Codependent.
I can't. No, stop. I'm like saying
Wanna
like
help.
to myself. Stop.
That's
Stop. I'm like oh my god.
Really funny time to decided to be really hyper dependent. I was switching my sister's mattress downstairs, queen size mattress, up to my room, and switching that mattress downstairs, a full size mattress.
oh my god.
So what I decided to do is just take both mattresses out. I'm pouring sweat. It has already taken me 3 hours.
It's so heavy to move a mattress.
By myself. 5'3".
I can't move a mattress on myself.
My house is tiny. I can't move anything anywhere. Like imagine me trying to move a mattress like through the hallway.
Yeah,
trying
it
to,
might
like,
be tough. It might be tough.
And I have a very like narrow staircase, so I'm
Yeah.
downstairs. Her bedroom's in the basement. I'm getting this mattress, and all of a sudden I get like 4 or 5 stairs out. There's 12 stairs. I get stuck. I get completely stuck. It's falling on me. I have my phone on me. I call Tom and say, you need to come here now. I need you to get this mattress up the stairs right now. I am stuck underneath it. Like, I need you to come here right now. This man comes within like...
It's your knight in shining armor.
My knight in shining armor comes within 10 minutes. Do you want to know how long it took him to do this? It took me 30 seconds.
30 seconds. That's so funny.
30 seconds.
I give you credit though for trying. For trying.
He did this so fast, and he put it. He says, and he was like, "That was hard." And I said, "Come on." I was like, "There's no way you just did that." I spent 3 hours trying to do that, and this man just did it in 3
You're
hours.
not valid, dude. Men are different.
I was like,
They're different. Well, yeah.
but that's what like the situation. I was trying so hard to do it by myself. I was trying so hard to be independent, and I was like, fuck, I am just so stuck physically and mentally that I had to call in.
That is so funny. She's stuck in her mattress.
I can't breathe.
She's like low-key like laughing.
He comes in the house and I'm just at the stairs. I'm like, hello? Can you help? You're trying to hey.
That
Oh my
is
God, that's so funny.
I love that. So, okay, that was your experience. And then you're 27.
27.
So, what do you feel like has been the biggest life lesson you've learned thus far?
Ooh.
I know that's a loaded question.
That is a
But you're 27, you can handle it.
Life lesson.
Trust your gut.
I know
That's a
that's
good one.
like,
That's a good one.
it's kind of like, I feel like a lot of people say that, but trust your gut.
Yeah.
Like, you feel like you always know best.
Mm.
Right. So I would definitely say, trust your gut.
Yeah.
And that's something, and I mean, like, I don't know, I guess as I'm continuing to get older, I'm starting to make decisions now. This is going to sound crazy.
Yeah.
Not for myself, but like for my future kids.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
start to like think of things, and I'm like, okay, this is something that's going on in my life. I need to think not only for myself now, but I need to think 5, 6, 7 years from now for my future kids, which has been a huge, like, if you asked me that 2 years ago, I'd be like, no, I'm not really thinking about that right now. And then now all of a sudden I'm like, oh, okay, so like I need to start doing these things. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's kind of deep, but
That's awesome.
Kinda
No,
deep,
that's
but,
that's
like,
so true. It's
It
so
is.
true.
Trusting your gut is huge. I know. I'm like trying to think like 20. Like, what am I feeling like my biggest like lesson is? Is kind of like, honestly, it sounds so. That's maybe more as like applicable to me individually, but like you have to do what makes you happy, not other people.
Yeah.
And like for a long time, and even still, I have a lot of people pleasing tendencies, and like I'm working on it. But like you really need to do what is best for you.
yeah.
And you need to look out for yourself.
Right.
At the end of the day, you are the only person looking out for you, truthfully.
Yeah.
And so like you have to do what is right for you. Even if it's having hard conversations with people or distancing yourself from people. I feel like that's kind of like my biggest thing. Is like you really gotta look out for you. Yeah.
Especially the distancing self from people, like that's a really hard thing, especially as you get older too.
Yeah.
And like if you've had really long-term friends or whatever, like family, it's like a really hard conversation. And you're like, is this person like really
Adding to my life.
adding to my life?
Right.
Like, do I really need them around? And like that's also a whole different like
It is.
conversation to have, especially when you're like, what if the answer's no?
Right.
And then it's like, oh, like now I have to do
Hard
something really, really hard.
conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, okay, your friendships, like from like, say like early 20s, like really early 20s, like you're basically in your mid 20s now.
Right.
Do you feel like that's really changed for you? Have you like lost best friends in the mix? Or like close friends?
Yes, I think also too that we're all very in different different spots in our life. Like we were talking about earlier, I have one in grad school, I have one that's like trying to, just figure things out. And it's just like, it's very hard too when you're all in such different spots in life, and if you've known each other for so long, it's like, how do we like mold this friendship to where we're at now?
Sure.
Because it's like not going to be the same as we were 15 years ago. Because I'm not going to be talking to you guys every single day. Like, like life is different,
It
so
does, it evolves,
Yeah.
it changes, your friendships change. Like, my close friends, Carrie and Jess, I talk about them fairly frequently, but like, we were best friends since we were like 11 or 12. And like, we're still besties, like, till this day, but that looks different than what it did even 5 years ago, you know?
Yeah.
Because we're all in very different places. Carrie has children. Jess just got out of grad school. Like, I've just got out of grad school too, and like, I'm working. And like, and now we live hours apart. We used to live right down the street. So Jess was like literally through the woods of my house, and Carrie was she ended up moving a street down. So we were all so like we could so easily be like, yeah, we'll get together, and it's like so easy. I'm like, if I see those two people twice a year, and it's like we stay in touch, but like it just looks so different than like what it did, and it's like it's okay. Your friendships, your relationships go through different phases, and like it evolves in that space, and like you bring new people in. Like me and Kate, we've become extremely close. Like, and we've known each other for like 5-7 years.
Yeah.
We weren't always like besties 5-7 years ago,
But I think it like developed into like a friendship, and
Yeah.
like, she is my best friend.
Yeah.
She is going to be
Yeah.
my best friend.
Yeah, exactly.
And
yeah.
I think that just develops as people grow, and then we we were with
Same
each other all
interests.
the time,
Right.
same interests.
Same relationship status, essentially. Like
Exactly. It's like we always saw each other, so we were like, okay. It wasn't that type of thing. Like, oh, we see each other all the time. We have to be best friends.
Right.
Like
It
it
wasn't
wasn't.
forced.
It was not forced whatsoever. It was like we bonded over one thing, and then we bonded over another thing, and then we bonded over another thing.
And then you like figure out how much you like that person. You're like, oh my god.
And now I go to Kelly's every single Friday.
I know. It's like,
I-
oh, sorry, I'm spending more time with her than I am with my kids. It's fine. But like, it's funny because it evolves and it changes, and like what your friendships look like in your early 20s looks very different in your late 20s.
Right.
I think. Like, what about you, Marissa? Like, do you feel like you've seen that evolution?
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
I have a lot like you, people pleasing tendencies,
Yeah.
and so that was like between my trust your gut and then also too like you're the only one at the end of the day who has your back,
Yeah.
and it's
Right.
kind of like a very hard thing to come to terms with, especially when you do have those people pleasing tendencies and you want everyone to just like be happy, and you're like, oh my god, I would literally give this person my arm.
Yeah.
They would not do this.
I literally
Yes.
want my kidney here.
Yeah, and that was something that was like very like I got burned lots of times by friendships and all these types of things, and so that was something I had to learn time and time again.
Yeah.
So I've shedded lots and lots of like friendships and things like that, but also too like as my values change, and I think a big thing too is like I have like really good solid friendships, but I don't talk to them every day.
I see that. Yeah.
And I just went to go visit one of my best friends, and I hadn't seen her in 7 years. And it's like something that we pick up right where we left off.
Right.
And those
Love
low
that.
maintenance friendships, I'm like, I cannot talk to you every single day. Like, you know what I mean?
I know. Anybody that's like actually close with me, it's gonna take 3 to 7 business days.
Right, yeah.
And it's nothing personal.
Yeah.
But like that's
Like I had friendships where I was like, I can't talk to you every single day, and
Yeah.
they would be a little bit upset about that. And I'm like, as I was working 2 jobs at the time, and doing a lot of different things. So I think that is really important. Then you also just like I don't know, like get to learn people, and you're like, oh, okay. So if they're willing to like even do these things to other people, like, do I want to surround myself with like those types of people that I'm now associated with? Because what's that saying that you like are the
you're the summary of 5 people that you're around. So like that's who you're like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that was like very eye opening, and I'm just like, oh, I don't know, I went through like, this was probably like, really when I got into like my health and fitness journey, like 2-3 years, I came to this point, I'm like, I am totally okay like on my own. Like I don't need all of these like friend groups and things like that, and I think that was something that was so like important to me. I'm like, I can do this thing by myself. Like I'm like totally fine. Like I gained a lot of independence that way.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Absolutely.
It's like
a good point to bring up.
it's definitely like you are in school, and there's this whole thing about popularity and all these things. It's like you need to have as many friends as possible, and obviously everyone has that type of thing. Like, oh, I want to be popular. I want to be.
You want to belong. And I will say this, like a little side note, like every time I'm working with somebody through disordered eating and body image, it all stems back to wanting to belong in our society, amongst friends, whatever your environment is. You just want to belong, and that's like human nature, is wanting to belong. And I think you're so right. Like, yes, there is a pressure to have like thousands of friends and like go to every party. And now I'm like, I don't get FOMO. I don't get FOMO. I know you still get FOMO.
I still get FOMO.
I don't get FOMO. I'm like,
But
have your fun.
It's in the way that it's like my friends are going out, and I have chosen to stay in, but I'm like, no, I want to go out. I was like, they have already invited me. It wasn't that like they didn't invite me and I didn't get to go, but it was like I just want to go. I was like, oh, darn, they're having fun. I want to have fun. But it's like in school, you learn through society that like, oh, you need to have all these friends to be popular. You need to be friends with like the athletes and like the popular girls and whatever, this, that, the other. And when you go up, you realize, oh, I legit have like 3 best friends, and that's all.
Yeah.
Like that's all I need. That's all I need. Because when you get to this age, you are spread thin. You cannot give your all to every single fucking person that you see. Like you can't.
And you also have to pick the people that like you want to give your all to.
Right.
Yeah, you have to pick you have to, especially too like when you go to work and you do these things, and like you have to pick at the end of the day like who's the most important, which sounds kind of bad.
I know.
But who's the most important? That's like, okay, who's gonna get my energy at the end of the day?
Yeah.
And like, it is what
Who's
it is.
giving that same energy?
Exactly. Who's giving the
Because
same energy?
you don't want to
back
pour
to
into someone's cup that's not even looking at yours.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. I also think I'm kind of going off on a tangent.
perfect.
But there's like an importance of like, even if you are like, you guys I feel like do a really great job of this. You're in long-term relationships. It's not just like that's your one person. Like obviously that's your person, but like how do I say this? Like you have female friendships outside of that.
We're trying.
That is
I'm learning.
That is so important.
I've made that a very big thing. When we first got into it, it was very much me just seeing everyone else like, oh no, I need to like be next to my boyfriend, I need to be next to my boyfriend. And he was the one who was like, why don't you go out with your friends?
Yeah.
Why don't you like get away from me for a second? And I was like, okay, like wait, you're not gonna be mad at me? Like I don't know where that trauma came from. It wasn't from like anywhere, but I think I just got the hint from like everyone else. I was like, oh no, he's gonna be mad at me if I go out with my friends. And I started doing that. I'm like, oh my god, our relationship is better. Our relationship develops from that because I'm not spending so much time with him. I have other friends. I don't have to like completely depend on him.
Yeah.
Not that I'm depending on my other friends, but it's like I have other people to go to.
It gives you, a different like sense of liberty. Because I had that too, where like he would go out with his friends, and I'd be like, I don't really have that many friends, so I'm just gonna stay home. And I feel like it would have been so much better if I was like, great, you have your night, which like he did, but at the same time, I could have been like, I'm gonna go hang out with my girlfriends.
That's
And I
exactly
feel like-
what me and Ty are doing right now. Like he's
Exactly.
going to a party with his friends. And
So healthy. But I feel like a lot of times too, like, I don't know, I feel like growing up I was like, well, I should just hang out with this person and this person only, and you just don't know about it.
Right, exactly. You're just very naive in that situation. It's like you just, and also in that situation, you're like, I only want to hang out with this person.
Yeah.
I was gonna say the same thing. You're like so all encompassed. You're so like in it. You're like, I'm so in love with you. I just want to be with you all the time.
Yeah.
Like every single
Do you
day.
ever like
every
tell them,
single
I was
second.
like, I just want to crawl in your skin.
I just you're so aware of your skin.
Yes.
Like I want to just be around you all the time. It's
Oh,
also like
love it.
it's also like you have to be your own person too because
Yes.
like fuck you never know. You know,
Exactly.
so it's like
Exactly.
you have to just like be your own person. But especially too when you're so in it, you're so in it too.
I know. I feel like I will call myself out. I've been very bad about that. And I'm getting better the past couple of months, maybe. And it's not because, like, I purposefully try to do that. You just kind of fall into it.
Right.
And I think when you're also best friends with the person you're in a relationship with, you're like, oh, I'm going to hang out with John every weekend. Oh, I'm going to do this. And it's like, it's interesting now that I've been making more time for like girl time, and I didn't realize like how much I miss girl time. And I'm like, oh my god, I need this. Like, this is healthy. Like, this is so healthy. And I'm like, it's so beneficial. So like, yes, having a balance between like your romantic relationship and like your friendships and like having that is so important.
And female friendships are hard too. Like
It
it's
can,
honestly so hard sometimes to like have female friends, especially too. Like it can definitely be a really challenging dynamic too.
Yeah.
So
I know, I'm like so grateful. Like my friends and I have always been chill. Like we don't fight.
Yeah.
Like it's like we're good. Like I'm very lucky in that sense. Growing up though, like there was plenty of drama. Like I had friend groups that were like plenty of drama, and like that actually made me honestly probably what caused me to not want to make a lot of girlfriends. Like, and I was like, John is my safe space. Like John doesn't do drama, so I'm gonna hang out with John. And like that was great and that's lovely. But like you definitely should have like even if it's like family, like cousins, sisters, like mom. If you have your mom that you want to hang out, like go.
My mom is my best friend.
So like I think having that is super important.
Yeah, it's interesting too because I feel like for myself in my later 20s, I've developed like a lot deeper, closer friendships with female friends, which has been really interesting. I feel like in my early 20s, I was more so like
Superficial.
Like I was more so like okay with just like not having friends. Like I have like one
I
friend
get
in
that.
mind, and now I feel like it's become a little bit more important to me. As I get older, I'm able to like actually like connect. And it's like you said, it's not so superficial.
Right.
It's not like, oh, we're going out to a bar with our fake IDs.
Oh, it's gonna be so fun. We're gonna get so drunk
In the bathroom, and one girl's like, "I'm so mad at Chad."
Like, oh, you're so pretty. I love you.
Yeah, and now it's like I'm actually like fostering deeper female friendships.
Yeah.
And
Right.
to me, that's like so
important.
important.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I love that. So like we all do online coaching, right? So with that, I consider entrepreneurship as like a concept. And so how do you guys feel balancing your 20s and like the pressure to perform as an entrepreneur? That's a loaded question.
Difficult.
I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
It's hard.
It's hard, especially too since like we started our business. Like trying to find the balance of like also to like our relationship, like what's sister time versus like what's
Absolutely.
business time and like work time. Like finding that dynamic was really hard. And then also being in your 20s, like finding like okay, do I need to be working 16 hours?
Yeah. Oh.
Probably not.
Yeah.
I
Probably not.
Stop you in your tracks right there.
Yeah.
It's good to grind it out. Let me say that. In your
Yeah,
early 20s, I'm sorry, it is the time to grind it out. I
I
think now in my 20s, I still have grinding to do.
Yeah.
But I do think you can grind it out and create boundaries. And like, I didn't do that for the longest time.
Yeah.
So like, try to cap yourself out at like 10, 12 hour days. Try to not go over that. I was doing 14, 16 hour days. It was No, not good for your health, not good for your mental, not good for your physical. I was getting sick all the time. Like, this is the first cold and flu season I have not been sick every couple of weeks. And I do think that is a stress management thing. So, like,
you used to get sick.
It was so bad. Like, I now realize, like, oh my God, the toll that took on me. You don't realize till you're out of it. You don't. But
and like, why do I get sick all the time? You're like, you finally like manage your stress. And you're like, oh.
And now I get like sick, like 2 weeks at a time. Sick.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, oh, freaking
out. I think also too, when like you're so burnt out, like you don't like how you show up in every other aspect of your life. Like you're showing up great at work, and you're like, God, I kind of hate who I am outside of work.
That's
why I hate myself. All right, this is not the way to let it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like God, Jesus Christ. So I feel like it's like find that boundary too, because like of course like it's important to make a good living, yes, like financial responsibility, but like. You're not like made only to work, you know. Like you have to find that balance too.
I agree with that 1,000%. I always have said this. Like as soon as I started coaching with you guys, as well as like coaching, like when I did my internship and all these things, I'm like, this is not my entire life. This can't be my life because I need this separate so much, because if it's not separate, it's just going to take a toll on me and it's not going to be good. Like I know it's not going to be sustainable. It won't be good for like my mental health. I will be just high strung constantly, and I know that wouldn't be good. So that's why I do 2 different Instagrams. That's why I do that, and it feels good to have 2 different Instagrams, because I've gotten like Matthias said before, he was like, why don't you just use your regular one? You have so many followers on that, like why don't you just use that? And I said, because I think it's really important for me to have a work-life balance, so I can go on this Instagram and I can log off and go on my other one.
I'm going to add to that. I think, this sounds kind of sad, but don't take it sad. I lost so much of myself in work because I identified so much with my work. And that's great. It was very, like, it's beneficial, like, career growth, all that. But, like, you do lose, like, who you are. And it's, like, all I am is work. And, like, that becomes everything. And then, like, to your point, you said, like, you start sucking in everything else. Like, oh, I'm a terrible girlfriend. I'm not calling my mom as often as I should be. I'm not hanging out with my friends ever. I'm not making time for my cousins. Like, I'm not doing those things. I'm not making time for me. Gosh, like, and it's like, that doesn't benefit anybody in your life or even yourself in your career growth. Like, the more you can pour into you and like take that time for you, the better you're going to be in every other area of life, and you're going to be able to pour more into your career because you're not so burnt out. And like, I just think that burnout can be so hard to come back from, and I think I'm still working on coming back from it, but we're coming back.
When you're burnt out, it's so hard, like you said, to show up in other areas of your life, and you start to resent so many things, and you like get angry. I was so burnt out.
Resentment.
I was so angry all the time. Like I just, I was
don't talk to me.
I was so miserable, and I was kind of just like burying my own grave, for lack of better terms. I think it's important also too. I do this to Vanessa now. If she is working too late, I'm like, well, what are you doing? I'm like, what are you doing? And I have to call her out, or she's like, I'm still doing this. I'm like, why? Tomorrow's another day. But this only happened for me, I would say, like a year and a half, like 2 years ago. I started like telling myself I'm gonna become a yes woman. Like I'm gonna start actually doing things.
I feel that.
I don't know. I just had this like, I don't know if it was like after COVID times, or like I don't know what happened. Maybe my frontal lobe developed.
You realize how short life is, and you're like, I'm never gonna get this experience again. I'm never. You gotta stop like rushing things. You gotta just do shit. Like you can't just rush your life always. You can't just rush everything. You can't just rush your life with, oh, I'm just gonna work, I'm just gonna gain all this money, and I'm gonna be rich by 40, and I'm gonna have these kids and my husband, and I'm gonna be like so happy, but I'm also gonna be miserable because I didn't live.
That's it. I will say this. There have been times where I was making, like, and I make a great living, I'm very grateful. But like, there was a point where it was like, I was making so much money, and it was like, all I was doing was work. And I never turned off from it, and I was like, yeah, that's great financial stability, but it was horrible in every other area of life. And I'm like, I would rather take a pay cut and like limit how many clients I'm taking on, and like have the ability to like go out on a Friday with friends, spend time with take the weekends off from work, and like really create that boundary. And it's like, I think in your 20s, there's so much pressure to make a lot of money, and especially with social media, like you see 21-year-olds that are living in like penthouses with like Mercedes and like.
Yeah, guess what? I live at home. Like I live at home in my room, like my car that my parents thankfully like gave me after they were done with it. Like, but at least I am not miserable. Like, at least I'm not miserable.
And I will say, like, so, and like, I know people say this all the time, and like, it's a very privileged thing to say, but like, money doesn't always equal happiness.
Yes.
Money can give you a lot of stability, which can reduce stress, therefore happiness. And I think there is a certain amount of money that you do need to be happy. I will say that. However, it's like, there is a point where it's like, do you really need to make that much to be happy? Do you need that much to be stable? And no, you don't need to. And I think if you're sacrificing every other area of life to make that amount of money, it's like so not worth it. So not worth it. But yeah.
And like Kate said, you're saving up. Sorry.
No,
Kate said you're saving up all of like that till like what, you're 40 and all this stuff, early retirement. But like, this sounds morbid. Who's to say you're gonna literally make it to tomorrow?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
and it sounds very
never
morbid,
know.
but like kind of having that outlook on life. And I do the same thing with like how I treat people. Like, it's again, it sounds morbid, I know, but it's like
I do the same exact thing.
I want to show up as like the most like authentic, kindest version of myself because I literally don't know what tomorrow brings.
Yeah.
And I think that's just like so important.
Absolutely. There's so much more to life than just working
Yes.
all the time. It's good to work hard, and I encourage that. And you should grind it out to an extent. You should. But like, create boundaries when you're grinding. That's my biggest piece of advice. Create those boundaries.
I was gonna say, especially from our conversation earlier when we talked about kids and stuff, and if you don't have like the kids, the marriage, the house, like okay, go grind it out,
Sure.
go work,
Yeah.
like be a career.
That's
Which I
right.
think it makes sense to a certain degree, but I also think like finding that balance of like what makes sense and like what's important to you is important.
I think in both situations.
Yeah, I agree.
Like,
I
after you're
agree.
grinding it out, you have to find balance, and then you have
Yeah.
you have this wife or husband and kids. You have to find a balance in that too.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to be one extreme or the other. It can be a spectrum of all these things. You can still be figuring it out when you're 30. That's okay.
Yeah.
You
Oh
got-
God, yeah.
You
I
got a
think
lot of
you're
time.
just
I'm probably still
always-
gonna be figuring it out when you're 30. This is the whole thing. No one knows how to do life.
No.
Yeah.
No one knows what they're doing, guys. I don't know what I'm doing. Kelly doesn't know what she's doing.
I
Vanessa
don't
doesn't know
know
what she's
what
doing.
I'm doing.
Vanessa doesn't know what she's doing.
I'm just hoping. I'm winging it.
No
That was
one's
my
done this
fingers
before,
crossed.
guys. We're
Yeah.
just living.
Yeah.
We're just living.
Yeah.
I would love to hear from everybody here how like health and wellness or health and fitness, however you want to interpret it, has changed from maybe like early 20s to mid 20s or late 20s. Vanessa got it.
You know better than anyone.
Yeah.
You're kidding? You know better than anyone.
I know.
Let's see. Definitely for me, I think like also too like what's important to me and like what actually matters in life. Like I don't need to be like 6-pack shredded to just be walking around like to fucking Stop and Shop for my groceries.
And let me say-
like I don't need to be that.
When you had that, did you feel happier?
Oh my god, no.
No.
It's so funny. I was telling Marissa this the other day. We were like shopping, and I was like, you know, it's so interesting how like your perspective changes on certain things, like how your body image changes so much, like in terms of what I thought like would be the worst thing ever if I gained like 5-10 pounds. I'm like, it's all good. Like we're all good. It's such a better quality of life. And I think when I was younger and I was like 19 or 20 or 21, like when I met you, I was like, this is all that's important to me. It's all what I have. It's my physique. It's my body. It's whatever.
It's a thing that you can control.
It was more than anything a control thing. And it's like, this is all I have. Like, I have to hold on to this. So, like, changing that was one of the hardest things. But it was so worth it.
Yes.
So, yeah, I think especially as you're, like, in your mid-20s, you're like, who cares? Like,
Yeah,
who
right,
literally cares?
right.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, I hope that for most people, I know it's of course individualistic, but like I think as you get older, like I have an 18-year-old client right now, and like shout out her, you know who you're at, but like we're going through a big part in her recovery right now. And we're talking a lot about body weight set point and like how going to that place is going to help her a lot with like body acceptance. And we're talking a lot about like what does she want her future to look like, and like what's important to her, and like who is she outside of her body. And like I know for myself growing up, I identified so heavily with my body. Even like a couple years ago, I was like, if I don't have this look, if I'm not competing, I'm not gonna get clients. That was literally my thought. And then I come to realize people don't want to work with me for what I look like. They really want to work with me for like the way that I coach, my knowledge base, and like the way that I treat my clients and like the relationship I build with my clients. And like that's what's important. It's not about what you look like. And I think that hit me super hard in my mid-20s was like, yeah, like this is not as important as like it was chalked up to be in like high school, early college, early 20s. It evolves and you become like a different person in a sense, because when you're in your mid-20s or your later 20s, you begin to realize like what really matters. And like it sounds so morbid, but like time is so limited. Right. It is so limited. You don't know when you're going to go. None of us do. Yeah. And I think you begin to realize like you're so much more than your body in a sense, and it's really cool.
Yeah, I think a lot of too what I was chasing was like validation of like I'm gonna be a good coach if I get on stage.
That's
because
it.
then I can prove that I can walk the walk.
Yeah.
No one literally cares. Literally nobody cares.
And I will say
at
this.
all.
for competitors watching this, and if you love competing, that's okay.
Love that for you.
But I think for a lot of people, it is not a good choice. And I really do recommend against it for the majority of folks nowadays. Like and that's somebody that competed in 15 shows and made it their whole life for 10 years. So
I think I struggled a lot with that starting. Even not the internship, because that was more of just a gym fitness, like all over fitness. But I think TM, it was I was coming into a space where
I kind of, not to cut you off, I kind of wondered how you might have felt about that, because it was so bodybuilding heavy and like people.
I'm coming into a space where it was so bodybuilding focused, and obviously they had changed into TM and what it is now, Together More, and all these things, and I was so aligned with that when I joined. But it was really difficult for me to join that. Like I had come from an eating disorder into like not really feeling great about my body, and just still trying to figure it out and all these things. And I never competed. I had never thought about it. That is just not even a thought in my head about it.
Yeah.
And personal choice, not anything else. But I think it was really difficult for me to come into that space.
Yeah.
And it took a lot of balls for me to come into that space. I'm going to toot my own horn. It took a lot of balls for me to come into that space. A lot of fucking balls. There's so many balls in this room. And I think that I put it all comes back to content as well. Like the content that you put out, the personality that you put out. I have a very strong personality. I'm going to put that out. I'm going to let everyone know how I talk, what I do, how I do it, all these things. And I think that's what I want to attract people to me. And I want people to come to me because they like me, because they like my personality. I don't want them to come to me because they want to look like me.
Right.
That's like my biggest. I don't want that, because even like I know we all have struggles still. Like you'll look in the mirror and be like, oh, I don't think I really love myself today. Like
I saw a tweet the other day from a friend, and it was like, your stomach is not ruining your outfit. And I was like, how many fucking times have you said that about yourself? You're like, I can't wear this dress. My stomach ruins this outfit.
Right. I mean, I'm bloated. Yeah.
So I feel like I almost had that before in high school when I was like so skinny. No one knew what I was going through. Like all these things, you're like, oh my god, you're so skinny. And I'm like, don't say that to me. Like, I don't want you to look like me. Like, I don't want you to go through this, all this shit. So I didn't want anyone to come to me and be like, I want to look like you, because I don't want you to look like me. I want you to look like yourself. I want you to be happy with yourself. I want to help you do that. And I know I can help you do that. And I just want them, like, to be able to trust me. There's a whole trust thing as well.
And things that a lot of people don't talk about.
I agree.
Everybody thinks, and like most of our listeners are like in their 20s and 30s, so like it's really good. It'll resonate so hard.
Like, what are you guys struggling with?
Like, we love talking about like the fitness and like the nutrition stuff, but like honestly, like I feel like people like lifestyle podcasting more, and like we've been kind of talking like I kind of want to move in that direction a little bit more. Still nutrition, obviously, but like I don't know about you guys, when I'm like looking at a person's Instagram or TikTok, I don't give a fuck about education anymore. I want to know what
you also know everything. You also know everything.
Yeah, what was the question?
Like how it's evolved from early 20s to now. I'm gonna make it really quick though. I'm not gonna. I could make this a really long thing. I'm not going to. So for me, early 20s, I was like really into competing. I was like, I'm gonna be a pro, and that was like the biggest goal I ever had in life. So I've dedicated I started competing when I was 17, my first prep, until now. And I decided when I was like 27 to no longer compete. So 10 years of bodybuilding, which is honestly crazy. Very mediocre bodybuilding. I'm not like saying I'm like really.
That's not on the flyer at Powerhouse.
Oh my god, that was my peak.
And I will forever be grateful for that experience, because that was like a big thing I worked towards, and like it was, for me, it was very validating, because this one made me sad. It's not meant to be sad, but like I was teased so much from my body growing up, like so much from my body growing up, and I was like, I think I competed for myself, yes, because I like a challenge and I love the gym and I love nutrition, but I think it was more of like a fuck you to like everybody that makes fun of my body, and I was like, look, I'm gonna go win a bikini competition, like then tell me what, right? And it was, now that I'm out of it, there was certainly external validation I was looking for. Why else would I be putting myself through that? Like I wanted to show people that like, it's horrible. Like I'm not incompetent of like doing my nutrition right and exercising and like getting to a body that is accepted of people. And I think that was a huge part of my life in my early 20s. And not that I regret that chapter, but I don't wish that chapter for many people.
Right.
And now I'm in a place where like I lift 3 times a week. I do my Peloton 3 times a week. and I'm now going to Pilates, and I love it. I'm a Pilates girl. And like, if you asked me like a few years ago if I was ever going to go to Pilates, I'd be like, that's a waste of time.
Like, Ashley too. She's a Pilates instructor.
Shut up, Ashley. Oh my gosh.
Sister.
I would love to take her class. And maybe when I eventually go to New York, I will take her class.
She lives in New York City. So it's like, she's fun.
Yeah. She's super cool.
10 years she's been there. Yeah.
Amazing.
So whenever I go, I'm like, hey. I like kind of know the subway things now, and I'm like, oh my god.
Oh yeah, it's evolved, and I'm like just like so happy to like be in this place because like what's crazy is like I don't even think about food ever. I'm like, oh, did I eat? Oh shit! Like I was so on point. Like I was like, I would say I was probably at one point JM's best client. I think I was JM's first overall champion. Like literally, which is kind of Well, he's done a lot of better things. Like Ashley Jones got her to the fucking Olympia, but like, I will say this, like, you know, it's come to a place where like fitness and health are like a huge part of my life still, but it's not my entire life. And I'm really grateful for that because now I like have so many other parts of my life back that I didn't have. So I'm very grateful for that.
I think that's so important, and like I feel like we all have very similar situations as far as like almost kind of still focusing on our health and fitness, of course, but almost like getting away from it and not like stressing the importance of it so much because like there's so many other things going on. I would say mine's definitely been different. Again, Kelly knows this best. Kelly knows this best because she's the greatest coach ever. But having my own like personal health struggles since like mid-20s to now has definitely gave me a whole different like perspective shift on health and fitness. Like when you don't feel good or you're like just going through things, whether it's, you know, gut issues, hormonal issues, you know, whatever, anything like that, it gives you a whole different perspective of like, oh, okay, like I just want to feel good. I don't, not that I don't care what my body looks like so much, but it's like second nature. Like it almost like, I don't know how to like phrase it in the best way possible, but going through all those struggles, I'm like, oh, so there's so much more to like if the gym were to go away tomorrow, what is that for me? Right. And I think that was so important. Like, you know, I train twice a week, if that, you know what I mean? And like, if you had asked me that like 5 years ago, I would like literally had mental breakdowns, and I would have been like, yeah, no, like I have to go to the gym, I have to move, I have to track my food, like completely transitioning away from it and just focusing on like actual health of like, oh, I actually want to be healthy for like all these years to come. I want to feel my best. Like I want to feel good. And I think just like not having it be so superficial of like, oh, I have like the most, you know, whatever, defined stomach or arms or whatever that may be.
Think about it this way, you're not going to remember that when you're testing.
Exactly.
You're not going to think about it and say, oh my god, do you remember when I had abs? Remember that night where I trained so hard that I was hurting in my stomach?
Yeah.
No, you're going to remember this night where we're like, oh, we're going to hang out with our friends, it's going to be so fun, and we're having such a great time. Like, you have to focus on that. Not specifically drinking, like it doesn't have to be that. But hanging out with your friends and spending time with other things other than the gym. You have to like go out there. You have to spend time with other people. That's what being alive is.
We're social animals. We really are. We really are. So like if you don't have that, and like I think when you're so deep into fitness, I know for me, it cut out my entire social life.
It cuts out a lot of things. It cuts out a lot of
100%. I will say this. I do worry if I was like not doing competing in fitness, if I could have got really wrapped up in like the college life and like partying, and like for me could have been detrimental to like my success. Like I could have, I don't know, I probably would have failed out of school. Like I don't know how people do that, by the way. With my major, like I know we have the same one.
It's hard.
It's hard. It is so hard. How do you? I need to study on the Friday night.
That's literally crazy.
I think it was because I loved my professor so much. Venture.
Thank you for passing me.
Thank you for passing me. He gave me a B+. A B fucking.
That's crazy.
I got a B+ senior year, so I had to pass. Oh my god.
That was my heart. Oh my god, here I go again.
Like that could have been him doing that. Let me pass. But do you want to know what my best grade, my final? Do you want to know what I got? An 86.
That's insane. That's insane.
Was over the moon.
You should have posted that in a frame.
Yeah.
I would have framed that.
Crazy. I'm like, God, people do this.
I know, right? I know.
It was so fun learning. I was like, class. And that's how I learned it because I'm such a visual learner. I'm like, oh, gone, okay.
It's a squiggle and it has these dots.
Yeah. My lecture was like 400 people. I'm like, anybody know what's happening here?
See, that's why it's so small. It was in a like.
It was very fun.
It was in an auditorium. Did you have it underneath the library?
I didn't have it underneath the library. I had it in one of the new buildings. It was like a
Pro.
classroom. Probably 30 people in the class.
I'd say 30 people, yeah. But like, I could raise my hand and he'd answer the question. I'd go up to him after class and he'd answer the question.
Oh, okay.
I'd go to every single Zoom call that he had. I was dedicated to passing this.
I always let him know. I go, I don't know what I'm doing, but can you help me? And he's like, yeah. And he
I was
was
like,
so nice.
He was.
so nice.
And I was so dedicated to learning it because I actually enjoyed learning it and I enjoyed his presence.